10. More about Nibbana and beyond. When I do something I like preparing. Preparation is very important. In whatever we do, to be prepared is very important. Bodily and mentally, whatever you want to do. If psychologically you prepare yourself, the rest happens so naturally. If you are very well prepared, you don't struggle so much. I look forward to this retreat and I hope you'll enjoy it. I hope you'll experience calmness, peacefulness, clarity, joy. Clarity also means seeing things very clearly. I would like to continue the discussion from last week regarding insight knowledge. Going back to some of the insights again. You see that in your meditation you come to a point where you see that arising and passing away is so tiring, and you don't want to be with it anymore. You want to be away from it. Get out of it. Escape from it. This stage it is called Kamyadanana, which means wanting to escape. Sometimes you think, if I just stop meditating, if I don't watch those things arising and passing away, I'll feel more peaceful. When you do that, you do feel more peaceful, because the concentration, the equanimity, the detachment it is so great, that even though you stop meditating you feel more peaceful, and you can experience this peacefulness. Oh, this is peaceful, and you can enjoy this peace. But doing that it is not the right thing. Meditation is very enjoyable, but if you just enjoy it you lose it. It is something like a catch-22. You realize that just stopping meditating is not real escape, because you are still in the arising and passing away. You are still in the process. After a while you even lose your clarity and you feel your mind becoming painful and agitated again. You understand. I don't want to feel that agitation anymore, because agitation is so painful. Distraction is so painful. Calmness, quietness, peacefulness is so much better. So, you come back to meditation. You pay attention to any sensation in the body, any kind of feeling, any kind of thought and any kind of emotion. But here, mostly, there are only very subtle emotions. This wanting to escape is like an emotion. You feel trapped in the process, so you want to get out from it. Get me out of here. This is like an emotion. Sometimes it can cause slight agitation, but you understand that the way to get out from it is to watch it even closer. People are looking for escapes in many of life's situations also. When we have difficulties, frustration, we try to escape from them. Many people try to escape in such a horrible way. Wanting to escape is okay, but what is the right thing to do to escape? The right thing to do is to watch the process more closely, to understand it more thoroughly. No matter what, even in your life, any situation which is painful, if you want to escape or overcome it, the best way to escape is to pay more attention, to study it more thoroughly, to understand it in every detail, completely. Complete understanding is the only way to overcome it. There is no other way better than that. No matter what the situation is, either meditation or other worldly situation, this is the right attitude. Once you get to this point in meditation, and understand that the only way to overcome any painful situation is to pay more attention to it, to understand it even more deeply, thoroughly and completely. After that, even in your life, when you face a difficult situation you don't try to run away from it. You don't turn away. You don't shut your eyes. You try to look at it more closely. What is happening now? I want to understand it even more deeply. The insight you get in meditation is applicable in your everyday life, in your worldly problems. You develop the right attitude to live the whole of your life, not only in meditation. For your whole life this is the right attitude, after paying even more attention, willingly. And this is very important, because you are willing to look at it again. Because you pay so close an attention, there is no other desire anymore, no agitation anymore. You don't even want to escape from it anymore, because you are paying such a close attention. So, See this point very clearly. You pay so complete attention that there is no other desire anymore. That complete attention makes the mind very balanced. There is no split or division. Before this, when you meditate, you want to escape. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. What shall I do now? Shall I stop meditating? Quote, your mind is not really whole. You are not paying whole attention. But when you come to this equanimity state, you pay complete attention. No matter what happens. Even if I die in this process, it is okay. You don't want to do anything else. You just want to pay complete attention, and then the meditation becomes really mature. The culmination of meditation. Nothing else I want to do no matter what happens. Even if I die in this process, I am willing to look at this process. Look at it, look at it. That sort of wholehearted attention makes the mind really settle down. Even in your life situation, when you decided, well, this situation is very difficult now, very painful, but I will really pay all my attention. I will really look at it. The moment you decide that, you'll find that you calm down, not so agitated anymore. That decision is very important. When you are paying complete attention, willingly, your mind calms down and becomes more balanced. No extremes. No attachments. Before that, when your mind calms down, you feel so happy. You feel so much joy that sometimes you get agitated and get attached to that happiness and joy. But now peacefulness becomes even greater, but you are not even attached to that peacefulness. Your equanimity, your balance is so great. It is very peaceful, but without any attachment even to peacefulness. And there is no desire to escape. It sounds very paradoxical, but when you are willing to look at it, everything comes into balance. When you pay more and more attention, things become more and more clear. The mind becomes stronger and stronger. Mindfulness becomes stronger and stronger. And every noticing becomes so sharp that with every noticing, without any thoughts at all, you see very clearly the nature of it, either impermanent, unsatisfactory, or no being, no ego, no self, no lasting essence, no control. You can see any of these aspects very clearly with every noticing without thinking. It is so amazing that, in a very short moment, one noticing is very short, one noticing is very sharp. In that moment, this wisdom and clarity can be so clear without thoughts. All our life, when we understand something, we understand it with a thinking process. We think about it and we understand it. But in this moment, although we don't have any thoughts at all, every noticing brings so much wisdom, so much clarity. This is because there is not thought. Because whenever you think, your mind is divided. Only when you stop thinking, then your mind is whole. When you stop thinking and start paying more and more attention, every noticing becomes very clear, very clear, very clear. And for the last 3 moments, very sharp, powerful clarity. And then the mind lets go. The mind is ready to let go. At that moment, you are not seeing or experiencing any bodily or mental process anymore. Your mind is plunging into cessation. In that moment, everything comes to a stop. And there is a very deep peacefulness and calmness of a very short duration. And when you come out of it, again, a very few moments of peacefulness and calmness still go on. Maybe 3 or 4 mental states, mind moments. After that, some thoughts come again and we can think about it. Something has happened. Very powerful, but very calm and peaceful. From that experience, you understand the nature of it very clearly. This is real peacefulness, real calmness, and real freedom. Then you reflect about yourself again. Something has changed. Even if you haven't read any books, or don't have any knowledge about it, still when you think about yourself, you know something has changed. It changes your personality, your perspective. You know that there isn't anything that lasts. There is no ego. There is no self. Naturally, your morality, your keeping the precepts becomes more natural for you. You don't have to try to restrain yourself from breaking the precepts. And you know that you will not break them. It just becomes natural. You know that you don't have doubts about non-self, future lives or about the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Often, for those who have no knowledge even, they spontaneously feel a very deep gratitude, very deep and powerful gratitude for the Buddha and his teachings, and for the Sangha also that keeps this teaching alive. A feeling of tremendous gratitude arises. One person told me that there was so much gratitude that he cried tears of joy. This teaching is so true. This is true freedom. Quote, many thoughts can come. These are the main ones. If you have reached that stage, you have eradicated Mishadai, the belief in self, in permanent ego. There is no such thing as permanent ego, self. Everything is in a flux and a change. And Vishikasha, or doubt whether I will be born or will not be born or this or that. All the Vishikasha is gone. Believing in other kinds of practices which don't have these eightfold noble path characteristics, or believing even in samatha meditation. Some people believe that if you practice samatha and get absorbed in some states, that is freedom, liberation, Nibbana. However, when you have experienced this through vipassana, you can understand that there is no other way to be liberated. The only way to be liberated is to watch these bodily and mental processes through and through. There is no other way for liberation. To be able to watch this bodily and mental process, you need to purify your conduct. Keep your sila very pure. You need to concentrate your mind on some object, which is body or mind, or any other object as a foundation, like breath or whatever. Calm your mind down and make it very clear and pure. Purification of mind, of thought. Just by watching this bodily and mental process, you purify yourself more and more. Purification of views. Purification of whether this is path or not path. By purification only you become liberated. There is no other way. If we want to be free, we need to purify ourselves, and you understand that this is the only way to liberation. Jealousy or envy, Isa and Makariya stinginess are overcome as well. This means that you are willing to share whatever you have with others and you are not envious about others. If you have something extra and somebody needs it, you are willing and happy to give it away. But that does not mean that you give away everything you have. If somebody really needs it badly, you are willing to share it with that person. When somebody is doing well and is happy, you are not jealous. I don't know the exact meaning of the words jealous and envy, but what it means here is that when somebody is doing well and you are not, how do you feel? You don't feel happy. Oh, if I were in that place, if I get that instead of him, you think in that way. But when you have become enlightened, you never think like that. You actually think how fortunate that person is. He is enjoying all that goodness. You are very happy for that person. This mudita, sympathetic joy, also becomes very natural. Most of us, more or less, before we become enlightened, feel that we're unhappy about others doing better than us. What an ugly state of mind. And what do we get out of it? We cannot love that person. We cannot appreciate that person. Why do people feel so lonely? Because of jealousy, envy, covetousness. We feel so lonely. There is so much enmity and danger in the world. Why? Because somebody has got something that I don't have and I want it. I will even get it unlawfully. Some people are so clever that they can twist the whole thing and make it look very beautiful. So this mind is very tricky and deceitful. Once you see it so clearly, you cannot do it anymore. There is no deceit or trickery anymore. You become very honest. You can see things so clearly. You may still feel desire for something because the first stage of enlightenment does not eradicate all the desires, all the greed. Greed is still there, but it is not strong enough to break your precepts. You'll not kill or steal in order to get something. You won't tell lies or commit adultery or take intoxicants. There is no desire at all for doing this. You are not controlling yourself. You just don't want to do it. it becomes so easy and natural that no struggle or effort is needed to control yourself. Before enlightenment, we know that it's not good to break the 5 precepts, and we try hard to keep the precepts. Sometimes the temptation is so strong that we struggle. It is very tiring. Sometimes we give in and regret it again and take the precepts again. One of my friends said, "Why do you take the precepts every day? Do you break them every day?" Quote, "After the first stage of enlightenment, it just becomes natural, and there is no desire to break precepts. Can you see how free you can feel, even though you have desire to enjoy your sensual pleasures? Because you have no envy, jealousy or covetousness. You are so free. And even when you enjoy those desires, it is not the same anymore. Before, we would think this is real happiness, real pleasure, real joy. But after that, even though you can let yourself enjoy sensual pleasures, you know that this is not the real thing. You don't get caught in it. Even if you enjoy it, you are somehow free, free to enjoy it. And when something unfortunate happens, you meditate and you can see that this is another mental state. You can become free very easily again. Before meditating, we think that things last, that they are pleasurable and can bring us happiness. We really believe in permanence, permanent person, permanent ego. But after that, this Mishadaitthi is gone. But Mishasana and Mishasata still lingers. Sometimes the experience feels like it is permanent, but when we look very closely, we realize that it is not. It is like you are living all the time on the borderline. When you are willing, you can see. So when you feel happiness, when you enjoy sensual pleasures, the experience seems the same, but when you really look at it, you know that, no, this will never really bring happiness. No real happiness there. Quote, although sometimes you enjoy it, you can also let go of it easily because you know that there is no real, lasting happiness there. A friend of mine said that after one becomes enlightened, one can really enjoy sensual pleasure. It is great because you don't get so caught in it. It's very difficult to talk about it, but this is the way it feels. That's why we can see some people enjoying sense pleasures even though they are enlightened. They are not caught in it. It's the same with anicca, dukkha, anatta. There's no identity anymore, but the person behaves the same way like a person. They will say, I, you. They use the same language, but always knowing that there is no such thing as real, lasting ego. So this is the difference. Very deep. But this will be eradicated in the 4th stage of enlightenment. So you become very free. Sometimes you'll laugh. Sometimes you'll cry, but you are not caught in it. You can overcome it very easily. Sometimes even crying feels good. Is that possible? Anyway, when you come across that, you will understand it. It's very hard to talk about these things. So you have eradicated Ditha, Vishikasha, Silabata Paramasa, Isa, Magariya. You don't want anything unlawfully from another person. If you have extra, you want to share that with another person. Being very generous, but not wasting anything. You don't go and throw away everything you have on the street. If you know that somebody really needs it, you will give it. So this reflection goes on for a long time, again and again. Reflecting on your sila, I cannot break any precepts anymore. I don't want to break them. And reflecting on the impurities you have eradicated, you can see that there is no ditha, vishikasha, silabata paramasa, isa, magariya. But you can also see what is left. You can see that there is still desire for sensual pleasure, and that you can still get upset. But even though you have craving, you will not break any precepts. Even though you get angry, you will not go and kill. Your anger or craving is not strong enough to harm another being, or even yourself. The more you reflect on Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, the more gratitude you feel. It is very hard to explain the feeling. Sometimes people reflect only on one aspect, not necessarily all of them. Some people reflect on one of the experiences only, like the moment when the mind becomes free, or the nature of that freedom. It is so free, there is no rising and passing away. Total silence. Quietness. This is thinking of Nibbana again. That moment when the person has experienced Nibbana. What is Nibbana? How do you talk about it? There is no rising, no passing away. There is no mental process. There is no physical process. You are not experiencing any mental process. You are not experiencing any physical process. You are not even thinking, "Oh, this is so peaceful." Because at that moment you cannot think about anything. The mind becomes very quiet and peaceful and experiences that peacefulness without even thinking about it. Only later you can think about it. So, what is the nature of Nibbana? Is it non-existence? No, it is not. It is not nothingness. Because if it was, anybody could experience it at any moment. Just think of nothingness and feel free. No, you cannot do that, because when you think of nothingness there is thinking. When you are experiencing Nibbana, there is no thinking at all, not even of Nibbana. What is the nature of Nibbana? In most texts the simile given is a flame, which has gone out. A flame burning and went out. What is left? Not nothingness. Or, if I make a sound, you pay close attention to the sound. Now there is no sound anymore. What is there? Just quietness. Is quietness real or not? How do you understand that? Can you experience quietness? Yes. So it's very similar to quietness or the flame which went out. There's no burning anymore. To understand silence or the nature of the flame that went out, first you have to pay attention to what was happening before. To understand silence, first you pay attention to the sound. That is the process. To understand what happened when the flame went out, first you pay attention to the flame. There is a process that leads to this state. It is not just an idea of nothingness. It is the nature of the process which has come to an end, the end of a process which is real peace. Because whenever something is happening, arising and passing away, there is no quietness. There is no peace. Once you experience that, even though sometimes you are not experiencing it, you can get caught in other worldly things or excitements. Whenever you pay attention, you know that this is not the real thing, not the real happiness. You can always go back to that very quiet and peaceful state. After you have experienced this state, when you meditate again, you make a determination. I'll meditate and get back to that quietness, to that peaceful state where the whole process stops. Quote, you can determine the length of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to stay in that state. So, meditate again with the determination that, I am going to experience that state of quietness, peacefulness again for 5 minutes. And then forget about it. While you are meditating, don't think about anything anymore. Just pay attention to whatever is happening in the body and in the mind. Do whatever you are used to doing. It does not matter what object. Anything can be the object of meditation. Pay attention to whatever object you are used to, which comes naturally and easily to you. Watch it, and it becomes clearer and clearer. Very fast, and it stops again, and you can get into that very peaceful state again and stay there for about the duration you have determined. This determination is very important, because if you have determined, then by practicing it you can stay there for completely 5 minutes or 10 minutes is determined, and you can keep practicing and extend the duration for half hour, an hour, 2 hours, the whole day. You need to practice in order to be able to get to that state and stay in that state. If you don't practice regularly, sometimes you might find it very hard to get there again. But even though you practice and you go into that state, if you don't determine for how long you'll stay there, your mind will come out again and again. In and out, it can happen like that all the time. If you want to stay there for a long time, you have to make the determination. So, you meditate. Make the determination, I'll get into that state again for 5 minutes. But if any danger should happen, I will come out of it. This is a kind of suggestion also. When you are deep inside there, if any danger happens, Spontaneously you will come out of it and deal with the situation. If you don't determine like that, you might not be able to come out of it. In the texts, there are many detailed instructions. This is what you should do, such as the right way to determine, the right way to meditate, and the requirements also, such as when you want to come out of it. Sometimes you have to determine, if my teacher calls me, I wake up. Quote, you do any kind of determination necessary that you need to do. You do that, and keep practicing. Even an arahant finds it difficult to get into that state sometimes. If there is anything worrying him, there is a story about two monks, one a very old teacher and the other a very young one. Both had attained enlightenment, and when they reached a monastery, the teacher, because of his seniority, got a very nice place to stay. Because the best place goes to the senior monk and the worst place goes to the most junior monk. The younger monk, because he is younger, naturally, got a place which was not very good, but he was very content with the place he got. He was very happy. No choice, no preference. He lived in his place and meditated and enjoyed this calmness, peacefulness and quietness for the whole duration of 3 months. The rains retreat. But the teacher kept thinking, oh, my little monk, his place is not very good. Maybe he's not feeling very comfortable. Quote, because of that worry the teacher could not get into that state. When you want to meditate, first you must reflect on the fact that nothing is important. Let go. That is why I emphasize this point again and again, in many different ways. When you meditate you must think that nothing is really important. So psychologically you distance yourself, even when you are meditating. Not only in that kind of absorbed state, but even when you sit for an hour. Tell yourself nothing is really important. I don't need to worry about anything at all. Quote, no worry about job. No worry about home for just 1 hour. It won't hurt anybody. Just let go of everybody for 1 hour. When you go for the retreat, just let go of everything for those 9 days. Nothing can really happen seriously. Nothing is important. We have done it for innumerable lifetimes. Why is it so important? Why can't we just let go for 9 days? If you can do that in every sitting, you'll find that your sitting becomes very easy and natural and you won't get so easily distracted. So, make the determination. We have been doing the same thing for how many years? How many lifetimes? Why do we think that this is so important? And we will continue to be doing the same thing. We don't know for how many lifetimes. So this kind of determination, preparing and distancing the mind is very important, but if anything serious should happen, I will deal with it. Sometimes people think of very insignificant things, and keep themselves worried all the time. When they talk about it, it is so laughable. If you want to develop deeper states of enlightenment, when you sit and meditate, you should determine, I am not going to get absorbed into that state that I already have for a certain amount of time, for a day, for 2 days, for 10 days. You have to determine that. This determination is very important. If a person is meditating with the intention to experience the next stage of enlightenment, he should say that, I am not going to get absorbed into that state, but I am going to meditate for the purpose of the next stage of enlightenment. And when you say, I am not going to get into that absorption state, you have to put a time limit. How many hours? How many days? Because if you don't do that, you sit and meditate and you get absorbed into that same state again. And if you get absorbed into the same state, you cannot get to the next stage. That's why a determination is very important. Buddha taught monks to make a determination, even before going to sleep. When you go to sleep you tell yourself, that now I am going to meditate, and relax and let go of everything. Sleeping is also a kind of letting go. Have you thought about it? Falling asleep is a kind of letting go. We don't hear, we don't see, we don't feel anything anymore. We don't know what's going on around us anymore. If you really think about it, it is very scary. You have lost touch with the world. So this is a kind of letting go, and we are actually doing it all the time. For some of the people who cannot go to sleep, one of the reasons is because they can't let go. They want to keep control over their body, over their surroundings. They don't feel safe and secure. So whenever you don't feel safe and secure in a place, you can't go to sleep. So Buddha said that when a monk wants to go to sleep, he should meditate, relax, let go, and determine, I will wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. If you do that regularly, you'll find that exactly at 4 o'clock in the morning you wake up. You set your alarm, and before your alarm goes off you're awake. You look at the clock and it's just the right time. But mostly you wake up before the alarm. I keep my alarm on all the time just in case. But always I wake up before the alarm. Get into the habit of it. You can also make the determination, the moment I wake up in the morning, I will be aware and mindful. I won't be dreaming or thinking anymore. Just a very clear, awake, mindful mental state. It means that from the moment you wake up, your meditation is there. You can determine that. If it hasn't happened today, keep determining and it will happen, and you will feel very happy about it. The moment you wake up, you're mindful, not thinking of anything. The mind is very clear and awake. No drowsiness anymore. Most people when they wake up they still feel sleepy. This is not a good way to wake up. Determination is very important. Because once you determine it, wholeheartedly your mind obeys. This is the way we need to train ourselves in order to get positive results. We can do it. In many ways we can train our mind to get positive results. This is just some additional knowledge for you. So that person meditates again and determines, for a certain amount of time I will not get into the absorption of the first enlightenment stage, but I intend to go further to get to second stage of enlightenment. Quote, if you cannot get to that stage in that time period, it is okay. You can still get absorbed into that absorption state that you have already achieved. For a few hours. For a few days you can do that again, and then after that go practice the determination to go further. Why do you need to enjoy the absorption? Because it is so peaceful. Paying attention to get to the next stage is useful, but it's a kind of burden. So let go of everything and go into this quiet, peaceful space. It is very restful. Kilesezudit avishikasha pathamananavaja. Do soda tiananavajo. Loba moha manathina adaka aharika anatapani tut the nanavajani. Tilde VSM 684. Among the kileses and wholesome mental states. Doubt, vishikashas and wrong view ditha are eradicated by the first enlightenment pathamananavaja. Anger duso is eradicated by the third stage of enlightenment tityananavajo. The second stage does not eradicate anything. It only weakens whatever is left. And if you notice in the third stage of enlightenment, only anger is eradicated, not even lust. There is no desire for sense pleasure, but still there is desire for a very pure, peaceful, blissful higher existence. That's why we do not consider that the third stage of enlightenment eradicates all craving, because this desire for higher existence is also a kind of craving. See how subtle it can be. This last craving, the desire lobha for this pure, peaceful, blissful state of life, is eradicated by the fourth stage of enlightenment Katuthananavajani. Because there is still some sort of desire. It shows that there is still some sort of delusion there. With any kind of desire, no matter how small, there is delusion. That is why delusion moha is totally eradicated only by the fourth stage of enlightenment. Even from the first stage, certain aspects of delusion are already eradicated. Only very subtle delusion is left. The fourth stage of enlightenment totally eradicates lobha, because even lobha for this peaceful, blissful, pure state of life is eradicated. Moha, which means delusion, or avijja, which means ignorance, are totally eradicated by the fourth stage. Mana. What does that mean? Not comparing with another person, not being proud, not being conceited, Because of our achievements, sometimes we feel very pleased about that. Oh, I achieved that. Quote, that's a kind of mana also. Not comparing with another person, but just being very pleased about what you have done. Even that is eradicated in the fourth stage of enlightenment. Just imagine how free that mind state can be. Totally free. Nibbana. Drowsiness is totally eradicated by the fourth stage only. Therefore, before that stage the person can still feel drowsy. An arahant does not feel drowsy. He can stay awake a long time, even for days if he wants. But if he wants to sleep he does so out of will. If we can do that, how wonderful. Jotika means agitations of the mind. Even after the third stage, anagami, the mind can still get agitated. It is only after the fourth stage that agitation is no more. There is only total calmness and total mindfulness. Even after the third stage the person is not 100% mindful. Complete mindfulness happens after the fourth stage. Shamelessness ahirika and fearlessness anatapa. Because after the third stage of enlightenment there is still some mana, some sort of pride. Because there is still some sort of greed. According to the Abhidhamma, it means that person is still not ashamed, still taking pride in his own achievements. This word shame is not the shame that people normally mean in their daily life. When you meditate, you can understand it. When something happens and you can see in your mind that this is unwholesome and you feel ashamed of it, you feel ashamed, not because someone else has found out, but because you know this is not beautiful. Mostly, we don't experience this, as it is overcome only after the fourth stage of enlightenment. So, we are still very shameless. Mashadaitthi musavato mashakamanto mashahivo time pathamananavaja. Mashasankapopisanavaka farusavaka time tatiananavaja. Satana yivasi ethavaka tivaditaba. Samphapalopimashivayama sati somati vimatina nanikatut nanavajani. Tilde VSM 684-5. Wrong view Mashadaitthi. Lying musavata. Doing something which is harmful mashakamanta, like killing, stealing. Wrong livelihood mashajiva are all eradicated by the first stage of enlightenment ime pathamananavaja. It is wonderful. Wrong thinking mashasankapo. Slandering. Making people fight pisanavaka and harsh and strong words farusavaka are eradicated by the third stage ime tatiananavaja. Eradicate means the intention is eradicated. Satana yivasi ethavaka tivaditaba, not just restraining. Mostly we restrain not to say anything like that. Restrain not to make people fight. But in the third stage of enlightenment it means that there is no intention even to do that. The fourth stage of enlightenment eradicates katutha nanavajani. Samphapalapa, frivolous talk. Mashavayama. Mashasati. Mashasomati, Mashavamati and Mashanana. That means that sometimes we remember things in the past. Oh, I have done this and that. I have enjoyed this or that. Even that sort of recalling is gone. We don't think about the past anymore. Only what we find useful. Like we have learnt Dhamma. And we think, Buddha said that. This is a kind of samasati, right mindfulness. Even after the third stage of enlightenment, the person still wants to think of what happened before, not about Dhamma, but about something else. If you think about anything beyond Dhamma, it is some kind of useless thinking. Useless remembering Mashasati, Mashasomadhi also. The mind gets absorbed in any kind of thinking, in any kind of object, even reading a book. This also goes with the fourth stage. The mind does not get absorbed in anything useless. Mashavamati. Sometimes people experience blissful states in their meditation, which is not really a liberated state, but they believe it is. When a person has become fully liberated, he knows that those are gone. They are not true liberation. Mishanana. People are very clever in doing something terrible. They can plan for it so well, very cleverly, very intelligently in some ways. Wrong wisdom or wrong intelligence. and this is eradicated by the fourth stage. So it goes on and on like that in the text, what is in which stage. It is very interesting to know all these things, but my emphasis is just until the first stage, because that is what we can expect. Beyond that it is very difficult. Most teachers emphasize not to stop there, to keep going. But I know very few people keep going. They feel so content that they just enjoy it. Nibbana is not a place, not even a mental state. When someone reaches the fourth stage of enlightenment and passes away completely parinibbana, he does not exist anywhere. In many books I read that some people are saying that even after that an arahant enjoys it and stays in that blissful state forever. Do you know why they say that? They are still attached to the blissful state, still want to go on living, which I can understand very well. It's not too difficult to understand that. But you can see that there is still attachment there, to go on living. They have even been saying that the Buddha still exists somehow, somewhere, maybe in the Himalayas. No, these things are very important to understand even as knowledge, because there are so many misconceptions and wrong ideas floating around. No matter how blissful, how pure the person is, still the Buddha said that is not what total liberation is. So Nibbana is not an abode, not a state. The nature of Nibbana is totally opposite to the nature of mental and physical phenomena. This is also important. Some people say that Nibbana and samsara are the same. No. Very clear no. But to understand Nibbana you have to understand samsara. Samsara means physical and mental process. This is called samsara, not the story actually. The real samsara, the real going round and round, means this mental and physical process going on and on. This is called samsara. The end of it is Nibbana. You can still say that Nibbana is related to samsara. Nibbana is somehow related to the mental and physical process. But Nibbana is not in the process. It is just out of the process. Just at the edge of the process. By that much you can say that Nibbana is related to samsara. That's why the Buddha said, I claim Nibbana in this body _SNI. 62. Which does not mean that there is Nibbana inside us. It means that by understanding this body completely, by understanding the five aggregates, this mental and physical process completely, we can reach Nibbana. There is no other way to reach Nibbana. When we say that this state of enlightenment eradicates those defilements, what do we mean? Can we eradicate those defilements that happened before? We cannot, because it has already happened, because it is in the past. Can we eradicate those defilements happening now? We can think that this could be possible, but do you think they will stay if we don't eradicate them? Whatever happens, let's say you get angry now. What can you do about it? And anger goes on from moment to moment. One mental state is a single anger actually. And because it goes on very fast, we think of it as a big anger. There is no such thing as big anger, but small angers put together. When it happens in this brief moment, it will go away by itself. It will never stay. We cannot say anger please stay, will go away. We don't need to eradicate that anger which is happening now. So when we say that this stage of enlightenment eradicates this defilement, it does not mean that it eradicates the present defilement happening now. Does it mean it eradicates defilements happening in the future? You don't know what defilement will happen in the future, because it has not happened. We cannot eradicate what has not happened. This means that the enlightenment stage does not eradicate past, present and future defilements. It eradicates the potential. The potential to arise is there but it has not arisen yet. And if you eradicate the potential, it is finished, it won't arise anymore. Because of past defilements. Because of past karma we're here now. And this karma that we are somehow carrying. In what form are we carrying our karma? In what form are we carrying our defilements? As a potential only. This is something very subtle to understand. Only potential. It has not manifested. Think of a seed as a potential. It has the potential to become a big tree. Say you want to eradicate that tree. In the past it appears and dies, so you don't have to eradicate it. And in the present, say if the tree is dying, just let it die. But in the future it has not yet become a tree. So if you want to destroy it, just destroy the seed. You don't have to destroy the tree. You just destroy the seed. So the potential is like the seed. Can you definitely say that? Say now it is 4 minutes past 5. Exactly an hour later, what kind of defilements will arise in your mind? Nobody can tell, because it is not definitely sure. But there's the potential for anything to arise. If you can destroy that potential, then it is finished. This potential is not in the past, and you cannot say that it is in the present, because it has not manifested. This potential is something very hard to understand. It could manifest. There is only the possibility, the potential. That's why, because it is this defilement which the enlightenment stage eradicates, and because we call this the Nibbanic state, we cannot say that Nibbana is the past or the present or the future. Nibbana is timeless, beyond time, not in the domain of time. This is very confusing and hard to talk about. Maybe some subatomic physicist can understand that. Karma is also a potential. When we reach a certain stage of enlightenment, certain karma cannot give result anymore. Our bad karma which we have accumulated after a certain stage of enlightenment will not give results anymore. Where is the karma? How are we carrying that karma? We are carrying it as a potential. It is very hard to understand. Let's say that we have a potential to get angry, but we are not angry now. But anybody can push our buttons and make us angry. We cannot tell when we are going to get angry. We are eradicating the potential for this defilement to manifest. The seed of the manifestation of the defilement. Even very learned monks sometimes could not understand it. It takes a long time. In order to understand, the best way is to practice. That's why the Buddha said it's unthinkable. You cannot understand it just by thinking. Nibbana is not something that arises or that happens. We cannot say when Nibbana happens. Nibbana is a reality which a person who has developed enough wisdom can experience. It depends on his clarity of wisdom. The clearer wisdom is, the more clearly you'll experience it. That is why in the first stage of enlightenment, the experience of Nibbana is not the same as the second, the third and the fourth stage. The nature of Nibbana is the same, but because of the purity of wisdom, you experience it differently. Like seeing, the clearer your eyes become, the more clearly you can see. It is very hard even to find a simile. That's why the Buddha said that there is no example for Nibbana. No words, no concept, no language can really explain it. Nibbana means quenching. In the Ratana Sutta, Nibbanti Dira Yathayam Padipa. It is like a flame that has gone out and nirvana. No craving, no striving, no craving anymore. Question and answer. The Buddha gave a sutta. The Dhamma. Karma is also a potential. When we reach a certain stage of enlightenment, certain karma cannot give result anymore. Our bad karma which we have accumulated after a certain stage of enlightenment will not give results anymore. Where is the karma? How are we carrying that karma? We are carrying it as a potential. It is very hard to understand. Let's say that we have a potential to get angry, but we are not angry now. But anybody can push our buttons and make us angry. We cannot tell when we are going to get angry. We are eradicating the potential for this defilement to manifest. The seed of the manifestation of the defilement. Even very learned monks sometimes could not understand it. It takes a long time. In order to understand, the best way is to practice. That's why the Buddha said it's unthinkable. You cannot understand it just by thinking. Nibbana is not something that arises or that happens. We cannot say when Nibbana happens. Nibbana is a reality which a person who has developed enough wisdom can experience. It depends on his clarity of wisdom. The clearer wisdom is, the more clearly you'll experience it. That is why in the first stage of enlightenment, the experience of Nibbana is not the same as the second, the third and the fourth stage. The nature of Nibbana is the same, but because of the purity of wisdom, you experience it differently. Like seeing, the clearer your eyes become, the more clearly you can see. It is very hard even to find a simile. That's why the Buddha said that there is no example for Nibbana. No words, no concept, no language can really explain it. Nibbana means quenching. In the Ratana Sutta, Nibbanti Dira Yathayam Padipa, it is like a flame that has gone out in nirvana. No craving, no striving, no craving anymore. Question and answer. The Buddha gave a sutta, the Dhammadasa Sutta, the Mirror Sutta. Buddha said that a Sotapanna has these qualities. He has confidence in Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. He will never break his precepts. If you feel that you have these qualities, you can tell yourself, I am a Sotapanna. But if you don't have this knowledge, book knowledge, or if you have not heard about it, although you have the experience, you don't know how to call it. You have all those qualities and experience. But to have that experience and qualities doesn't necessarily mean you know what it is. Let's say if I give you something to eat, I ask you to close your eyes and give you something that you never tasted before, and I tell you to open your mouth and put it in your mouth and you chew it. You can tell the taste. I can ask you how it tastes. You can say, oh, it tastes a little bit sweet and it has a little bit sour taste also. It tastes good. Quote, and if I ask you what is it, you'll say, I don't know. But I know the taste. I don't know the name. Quote, so you know the taste but you don't know the name for it, which is quite natural. A Sotapanna is a word for an experience. To be sure, I'll quote Letta Sayadaw again. Just wait long enough. For a few years even. Because you'll be tested in the world and in your daily life. Even though you cannot exactly say right now, oh, maybe I've attained the first stage of enlightenment. Don't be in a hurry to make the decision. Just wait long enough and you'll be tested and you may find out, oh, no, I still have to meditate. Quote, this is also called Mishavamati. You are not liberated but you think you are. But anybody can make that mistake. We don't blame that person. But if that person is honest, he'll know later. Because in the world so many people and so many situations are pushing your buttons all the time and you react. If you're honest, you know. But if you're dishonest, nobody can tell you. It's like cheating. Very subtle. Telling very subtle lies. Question and answer. Different people experience the different contests in different ways. Some people experience Vedana more rising and passing away. Some people experience Sita more rising and passing away. It depends on personality too. For beginners, it is better to start with sensations. Anything you experience in the body is a sensation. And in the mind you have emotion. I emphasize more on sensation because for a beginner that's where they begin. For a beginner it is very difficult to begin from thoughts and mental states. Later, it depends on your personality. Even though you begin from Kyanupasana, bodily movements and sensations, or Vedananupasana, if you do that long enough it goes towards where you are more inclined to go. It happens naturally. In the body we feel Sukha Vedana, Dukkha Vedana and Upekkha Vedana, pleasant, unpleasant and neutral. In our mind we feel emotions, pleasant emotions and unpleasant emotions. And sometimes the two are related. When you feel pain in your body, you feel unpleasant emotion in your mind. You feel so much anguish. Oh, no, this is so painful. Quote, so they are related. But they are not always related. Not necessarily. Because if you are a good meditator, not to say an arahant, although the body is in pain, the mind is peaceful. Arahants are not affected by bodily pain. It depends on how you have trained your mind. Question and answer. Uprooting of greed and hatred happens in the third stage of enlightenment. Uprooting of greed for worldly pleasure. But greed for a blissful life is still there. Greed for sensual pleasure is eradicated by the third stage of enlightenment. All anger and frustration are eradicated by the third stage of enlightenment. In the beginning of our practice we cannot eradicate this. When it happens we pay attention. Look at it very closely, and by paying close attention, it becomes weaker and weaker. Then sometimes it doesn't arise and the mind becomes very clear and peaceful. Then pay attention to more neutral sensations and feelings. But when there is strong desire or anger, it's important to watch them, but when they are very strong we are not very clear anymore, though we can still pay attention. Real good insight happens when they are not there anymore, or when they are at least temporarily not there. That's why in the 10th stage of insight there's total equanimity. No greed, no desire, no frustration, no agitation. The mind becomes very pure. Then breakthrough. So before this breakthrough to enlightenment this is necessary. But in the beginning of our practice it can come again and again. We have to go through it. Even frustration about meditation, even attachment to our peaceful state of meditation, we have to overcome. Give up. Let go. That's why it's very important to watch these things and let go. Whenever we have anger we can see that because we have some kind of expectation, attachment, or desire. We are upset. We can see both. Whenever one is there the other is there. When we want something there is the anxiety about whether we will get it or not. This is very painful. Actually desire itself is pain, incompleteness. Whenever we desire something we feel incomplete, and this incompleteness is pain. In the 10th stage of insight, nothing like that happens. No desire, no anger, no frustration. Totally clear and balanced. Question and answer. In the retreat I won't have time to explain whys. I can only tell you what to do. If you have done preparation, you have done half of your work already. Well prepared is half done. So, come prepared. Sit now. And prepare your body also. If you are not sitting now, in the retreat you won't find very easy to sit even for an hour. Your mind will get agitated. You need to start preparing now. Preparing your mind, your muscles and your nervous system. You cannot expect it just to happen like that. Even a runner has got to prepare. So, meditate now every day. This is a very exciting experience. It is not something you do very often. It is only 9 days. 9 precious days. I don't want to waste a minute, but I need all of you to participate. How can we all cooperate together and make the retreat the best it could be? I would like to make it a friendly and relaxed atmosphere. Somebody said a retreat is a treat. It is something very special. I do hope you'll experience something very precious. The time does not really matter. In a few days some people can experience something very deep and meaningful.